So the vision that was in the beginning is still there, to see a Sojourn church in every neighborhood in the city of Houston, that Houston would become a great place to live. In 2010, Sojourn Heights was planted, and then in 2013 we planted Sojourn Montrose with Marshall Dallas, and right now we're in the process of planting Sojourn Galleria.
The sequence of events that brought me to Sojourn is nothing short of providential, but suffice it to say that I felt the call to church planting and saw a clear and real opportunity to do that. Essentially a cultural indicator, I think, for the city of Houston, in that much of its sort of liberal and progressive heart is found in the neighborhood of Montrose. And so we've taken the invitation upon ourselves to come to a neighborhood that's open to all walks of life. So that was an obvious place for us to go if we were really trying to do what we say we wanted to do, which was to plant gospel-believing, gospel-preaching churches in neighborhoods that need the gospel. I think, and I believe, that the Lord is doing something really wonderful and beautiful through this sort of more interconnected, beyond sort of just, again, that idea of a network, family of neighborhood churches. And so by God's grace, we're a people who gather together on Sundays and informally throughout the week and try to practice what it is that the Bible tells us is true of who we are. And so it's a joy to walk together, not only on Sundays and not only sort of through special events, but to live life on life together on mission in a neighborhood that so desperately needs Jesus. The benefits of being a part of Acts 29 are manifold, but I think me personally, I was most benefited really by the assessment process. What the assessment sort of forced me to do was consider a bunch of questions that maybe I didn't want to address, but then also consider some questions that I never would have thought of. There is a certain sense of unity that the assessment and sort of the things that we agree to allow us to sort of move beyond those initial steps into just sort of that natural forming of relationships. So last year, came into contact with a man by the name of Christopher Delahoyd, who happened to be being prepared to be sent out of the crowded house in Boroughbridge and to be sent out to start a new work, or at least support a work in Acts 29 France. And that relationship developed very naturally from that point onward.
We just planted, and what we're calling it is we're calling it a soft launch. I guess I might prefer a soft plant because we're an organism, not an event. But the goal is to, honestly, it's audacious, but eventually to get to the place where we are planting another church. And we're planting a church every 5 years is kind of my goal. And we're planting churches that plant churches, so we're planting pregnant. Just the idea that, again, and if that happens, every church that we plant is planting, and it happens about every 5 years, then in 40 years where we're looking at 256 churches that are committed to not growing as big as they can, but discipling folks, living as family, being salt and light in the city and making a difference, and seeing God transform communities. And so one of my passions is not just to plant a church in the Galleria, but to spend basically a generation of life, the rest of my life, the next 25, 40 years, planting other churches that plant churches in the Galleria, and just seeing it just suffused with healthy, gospel-centered, Bible-preaching, Spirit-filled churches.
The reason it's important that churches plant churches is that for thousands of years, this is what God has done to extend the kingdom of God, to magnify the fame and name of Christ to the ends of the earth, is to plant churches, that plant churches, that plant churches.